Now we shall move to questions without notice, and I give the call to the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Next Wednesday marks the 4-year anniversary of the day that the Prime Minister promised to reduce power prices by $275 in 2025, a promise made almost 100 times. On the final sitting day of the year, can the Prime Minister finally give a straight answer and just admit that he misled the Australian people?
Order. Order. When the House comes to order, order. Members on my left, I ask all members on my right will cease interjecting. The member for Isaacs will cease interjecting. Members on my left, if any of that behaviour continues, people will simply be issued with a general warning, and I ask all members to show more respect and decorum in the House and to follow the standing orders that we are all obliged to follow of not using props in the chamber. Prime Minister has the call.
Mr Speaker, the once great party of the Liberal Party and the National Party reduced. They've gone from either being a party of government or the alternative party of government into play school, Mr Speaker, into play school. While the person who was Deputy Prime Minister when they committed to net zero is outside doing a press conference reporting the defection. Reporting his defection from the National Party. But of course they've come a long way since those golden days of caring about energy policy and the environment under Scott Morrison and Barnaby Joyce.
Member for Lyne, the member for Barker.
When they stood up and committed to net zero, when they acknowledged that the climate wars
the member for Cowper is now warned.
Were causing a failure of investment. Now, my learned colleague up there, Phil Curry, had this to say. In reality, the climate wars of the past 2 decades...
The member for Groom.
They're all outside watching you go down to 42. In reality, this is what Phil Curry had to say. In reality, the climate wars of the past 2 decades, caused primarily by recalcitrance from the Conservatives, is the reason why the energy grid today is such a dysfunctional and costly mess as it tries to play catch-up. That is what, in that radical journal, the Australian Financial Review had to say. But today, instead of having tactics committee meetings in the morning now, they have the equivalent of, paper yoga. Trying to paper over the cracks in the coalition, where the Leader of the Opposition, who doesn't support the policy that she's been out there spruiking, but supports net zero and said she did from the day that it was adopted, when half of those opposite there support net zero, half of them don't, but where the National Party has proudly said that they are now leading, and they follow. This is what the Leader of the NACS said. This isn't the first time the NACS have set the policy agenda and the Liberals have followed. Indeed, that is right.
Order. The Minister for Climate Change and Energy in the House comes to order. We'll hear from the Honourable Member for Gorton.
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. How is the Albanese Labor government delivering stronger environmental laws that benefit our economy and protect Australia's unique natural environment? What have been the obstacles to reform?
The call to the Prime Minister.
Sick member for Gorton, who, of course, campaigned so strongly in the lead-up to the May election, even though some of those opposite thought it was a seat that was about to fall. But congratulations on the outstanding result. I didn't visit Gorton during the election campaign. I was busy in Deakin and Menzies. So I apologise for that for the member for Gorton. But this is a win for business, it's a win for the environment, and it's a win for the country. Delivering more investment, more jobs, more housing and more infrastructure, and safeguarding something that is a source of great national pride, our pristine natural environment. The current laws aren't just obsolete, they're an obstacle. And in 2000, the median approval time for a project was 48 weeks. Today, it's 118 weeks. That means investors walk away and costs rise. The Samuel Review was commissioned by the Coalition and then ignored. They treated the recommendations with contempt. No surprise, given their betrayal of the Morrison-Joyce legacy on net zero. But while they're fighting each other, this Labor government is delivering a National Environment Protection Agency, delivering more jobs, more renewable energy, more houses, and delivering for workers in the forestry industry. It's delivering for our national interest, our people and our jobs, our industry and our environment. And I want to thank all those in industry and in the environmental groups who have engaged so constructively with the government to get this done. Australia does not have to choose between a stronger economy and a cleaner environment, because our government is delivering both. Giving greater certainty for business that will drive investment and lower costs, but also making sure that we do so in a sustainable way. This is a government that is focused on delivery. We said we would deliver this legislation this year, and we have today in the Senate. We'll pass this legislation through the Senate. We'll receive it back here this afternoon and get this reform done.
Give a call to the Honourable the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. My question goes to the Prime Minister. With inflation running well above the RBA's target band and markets indicating the next rate move will be up, the Treasurer's economic failure is exposed. With 28 days until Christmas, what does the Prime Minister say to struggling mortgage holders paying $1,800 more in interest in December and every month thereafter than under the Coalition?
Order. Order. Members on my right. The member for Moncrieff. Order. No, I want to deal with this. The member for Moncrieff interjected 9 times during the last answer. So I'm just going to ask the member for Moncrieff to assist me with the House. She's a team player. The Prime Minister has the call.
My goodness, Mr Speaker. The Shadow Treasurer, who of course had coverage of the nuclear policy that was going to cost $600 billion and deliver something in the 2040s. He was so good at that.
You're the reason there's only 42 of
But they've now put him in charge. Of their economic policy, their economic plans. And what he's come up with there
Government whip.
is the revelation that there was this thing called COVID that flattened economies globally, that led to a cash rate of 0.1, that led to interest rates around the world declining, around the world, throughout every advanced economy, that led to emergency measures supported by the opposition, with myself as leader, being responsible, backing measures, including to keep people in work, unlike what they would have done, each and every day. And he has the hide to say, why isn't everything the same as it was under COVID? That is what he has had to say.
Order.
Well, the truth is that when it comes to interest rates, there have been 3 decreases this year. Inflation is half of what it was when we came to office. Employment has 1.2 million additional Australians in jobs. Wages have had 8 consecutive quarters of rising, not falling like occurred under them.
Order. Hang on. The Prime Minister will pause because. Order. No. All right. The Deputy Leader of the Opposition and the Treasurer are welcome to take their conversation outside. Order. Well, the Deputy Leader is now able to leave the chamber under 94A. Order. There is far too much noise. We're just going to take the temperature down. Prime Minister for the remainder of his answer.
Say good day to the member for New England, Mr. Speaker. I have to say good day. They're on 42 now, they're at 41. We'll see if we can get him into single figures by 3, Mr. Speaker. Because what we have been doing is cost of living measures to make a difference to people. Whether it's free take, lifting wages, making sure that medicines are cheaper, making sure across the board that people could see a doctor through the increased investment in Medicare, the urgent care clinics, the paid prac for nurses, teachers, social workers and midwives. The more than 1 million Australians who today have got registered and then will be receiving text messages in coming days to cut 20% off their student debt. All of these measures opposed by those
Prime Minister's time has concluded. Give a call to the honourable member for Menzies.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education. What is the Albanese Labor government doing to help Australians with a student debt? What has been the response?
Give a call to the Minister for Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank my good friend, the mighty member for Menzies, for his question. Mr. Speaker, in the wee small hours of this morning, between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m, when I hope most of us were still tucked up in bed, something very big happened. 1.5 million Australians had their student debt cut by 20%. And next Thursday it's all going to happen again. Another 1.5 million Australians will have their debt cut by 20% as well. This is the biggest cut to student debt in Australian history. And to give you an idea just how big this is, for the average Aussie with a student debt, it means $5,500 off their back, off their debt. It's all automatic. You don't have to do a thing. Just wait for the ding. As the Prime Minister said, the text message will come next week. But it is important to know, Mr. Speaker, why this has happened. There is one reason that this has happened, and that's because of this man here. Because of this Prime Minister, because of this Labor Prime Minister, because he promised it, because he fought for it, because he believes in it, because he believes that young Australians deserve a break, and because millions and millions of Australians voted for it. And, Mr Speaker, as one very smart National Party MP said, or potentially former National Party MP said, quote, "My kids are paying off a university debt and I reckon they voted Labor." Well, I bet they did. I bet they did. But even now there are still members of the Liberal Party who think this is a bad idea. On Monday, the member for Goldstein described celebrating this as quote-unquote despicable. You've got to ask yourself, what sort of planet does this mob over here live on? It explains why there's now 42 of them over there, and why the seat that Tony Abbott once represented, or Malcolm Turnbull, or Julie Bishop, or Bronwyn Bishop, or Brendan Nelson, or Alexander Downer, or even Sir Robert Menzies himself, are now located up there, because young Australians see them and they see through them, and they know that the Liberal Party no longer represents them. And they also know this, that it's this Labor government and this Labor Prime Minister that's cut their debt by 20%.
Before the Manager of Opposition Business, I'd like to do some acknowledgements and some recognitions, if I can. Just ask the House to settle. I'm pleased to inform the House that in the Northern Gallery today are representatives of the Movember National Youth Action Council, who are here to raise awareness of the importance of youth members led by mental health initiatives. Welcome to our friends from Movember. Now I give the call to the honourable member for Fowler.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Home Affairs. Minister, my community would like to know, were you or any government minister at the airport when the ISIS-affiliated women, also known as ISIS brides, arrived back in Sydney in September?
Give the call to the Leader of the House.
No.
Give the order. The House comes to order. I'll hear from the Chief Government Whip.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Health. What actions is the Albanese Labor government taking to strengthen Medicare? Why is this government so determined to deliver better health care for all Australians after a decade of cuts and neglect?
Call to the Minister for Health and Ageing. The member for Fisher will leave the chamber under 94A. No. Order. No. When people are asking questions, everybody should, particularly a former speaker, should absolutely know that sitting that close to me is the absolute red line. Members have got to be able to ask questions in silence for the respect of the parliament. Now I give the call to the Minister for Health and Ageing and the Minister for Disability and the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Thank you, Speaker, and to the member for Lawler for her question and her support for a stronger Medicare. There are now 29 Medicare bulk billing practices in her electorate, bulk billing all of their patients all of the time, as well as the Werribee Urgent Care Clinic that's seen almost 30,000 patients, Mr Speaker, and early next year a new endometriosis and pelvic pain clinic in Werribee as well, Mr Speaker. And this government is ending the year as we began it, Mr Speaker, focused on a stronger Medicare and cheaper medicines. In just the first sitting week of this year, the government announced a landmark women's health package, Mr Speaker, listing for the first time in decades new contraceptives and new menopause treatments, and since then already more than 550,000 Australian women have saved tens of millions of dollars at the pharmacy counter because of that decision, Mr Speaker. Just a couple of weeks after that, the Prime Minister announced the largest ever investment in bulk billing in Medicare's history, Mr Speaker, and already well over 1,000 general practices have gone from charging gap fees last month to bulk billing all of their patients this month, Mr Speaker, and that number is increasing every day. That same day, we promised more doctors into the system, and this year we've trained more junior doctors as GPs than ever before, and next year we'll break that record again. And just 2 weeks after that announcement, we announced 50 more Medicare urgent care clinics. 3 are already open, 47 will be announced before Christmas and will be open in the following weeks. And then, Mr Speaker, 4 out of 5 Australians will live within a 20-minute drive of an urgent care clinic. Open 7 days a week, extended hours and fully bulk billed. All you'll need to take is your Medicare card, Mr Speaker. And if that's not enough, Mr Speaker, 2 weeks after that, the Prime Minister attended the Guild conference and announced our latest wave of cheaper medicines measures, Mr Speaker, freezing the maximum script price for pensioners all the way to the end of this decade and slashing the maximum amount the general patients pay at the pharmacy counter to just $25 on the 1st of January, the same price it was way back in 2004, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this was the most comprehensive health policy package any party has taken to an election since Bob Hawke promised to introduce Medicare in 1983, Mr Speaker, and we are delivering on every single thing that we promised, Mr Speaker, because for this party, for the Australian people, nothing is more important than a strong Medicare.
The call to the honourable member for La Trobe.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. Under Labor, the number of Australian families on financial hardship plans has surged by nearly 50%. Australians, including families in my electoral La Trobe, are hurting. What is the message from this minister, who works part-time, to more than 200,000 Australian families struggling to pay their power bills and cutting back this Christmas because of Labor's broken promise to bring down power prices?
Give the call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I thank the member for the question, and my message to his constituents and to the people of Victoria is that we will continue to work without reservation to put downward pressure on energy prices by introducing more of the cheapest and most reliable and lowest forms of energy, Mr Speaker. And the fact is that in Victoria, the wholesale price of electricity in May 2022 was $233 a megawatt-hour. It is today $77 a megawatt-hour over the last quarter. The retail increase in Victoria that wasn't known for the 2022 election—
The Minister will pause. The member for Cowper was warned within 3 minutes of starting the question time today, so the warning continues right through. It doesn't wear out. If you are on a warning, I don't know why this is so hard. Do not interject. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to ask you to leave because you've shown disrespect to the chamber. Just asking everyone to show a little restraint. Member for Lindsay, I'm asking you as well not to interject anymore. Minister in continuation.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The retail increase in Victoria that wasn't known before the 2022 election, which should have been known, was $61 for households and $270 for small businesses. 6 coal-fired power stations in Victoria totalling 6.8 gigawatts announced their closure under the former government. Morwell, Anglesea, Hazelwood, Yallourn, Loy Yang B and Loy Yang A are the first 3 closing in that period. None of them were. There was no plan to replace any of them. The previous government's big scheme, the underwriting new energy generation investment program, UNGI, delivered exactly 0 gigawatts for Victoria under them, Mr Speaker. By contrast, 4 gigawatts of renewables and 1.2 gigawatts of large-scale storage have been added in Victoria since May 2022. A further 2.8 gigawatts of renewables and 1.8 gigawatts of storage capacity in Victoria have been selected under our government's capacity investment scheme. So, under our capacity investment scheme, 2.8 gigawatts of renewables and 1.8 gigawatts of storage for Victoria. Under their UNGI scheme, 0 for Victoria. To be fair, 0 for everyone. But given the question was about Victoria, 0. And I'm very pleased to report, Mr Speaker, that as of today, 139,629 Australians have installed a cheaper home battery, and 23,845 of those have been in Victoria, with that state now having 500 megawatt-hours of new home battery capacity since the 1st of July. So what our government is doing is delivering for the people of Victoria and repairing the damage of 10 years of denial and delay the previous government inflicted on the people of Victoria.
The House comes to order. We'll hear from the honourable member for Bennelong.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Treasurer. How is the Albanese Labor government delivering tax relief for Australian workers, and how does that compare to other approaches?
Give a call to the Treasurer.
Thank you, Speaker. As a key member of the economics committees of this House and our caucus, the member for Bennelong knows that responsible economic management is a defining feature of this Labor government. Creating jobs, getting real wages growing again, rolling out cost of living relief. And tax cuts are a really important part of that because they recognise that when Australians earn more, they should keep more of what they earn as well. And that's why we cut taxes last year. It's why we're cutting taxes next year, why we're cutting taxes the year after that as well. Every single taxpayer is getting 3 tax cuts because of this Labor government. That means we are returning bracket creep. We're getting average tax rates down. And it means a fairer tax system for workers and especially young people. It means about $50 a week back in the pocket of the average worker, Mr Speaker. Now, when the Shadow Treasurer gives speeches about bracket creep, he really ought to mention that those opposite voted against these income tax cuts. The Leader of the Opposition said she'd absolutely roll them back. They took a policy to the last election to raise income taxes on all 14 million tax-paying workers. And that means if they won the election and if they had their way, 14 million Australians would be paying more tax. Bracket creep would be worse. Average tax rates would be higher. Tax to GDP would be higher as well, but they still had bigger deficits and more debt, Mr Speaker. And that's why it's so extraordinarily dishonest and hypocritical that the Shadow Treasurer didn't mention any of these facts at the press club yesterday. No wonder nobody takes him or them seriously on the economy. They haven't changed a bit and they haven't learned a thing from the election. And I wanted to tell the House, Mr Speaker, about something the housing spokesman from that side said yesterday. Get a load of this, Mr Speaker. In the Canberra Times yesterday I read, and I'm quoting, the Liberal housing spokesman said his party should focus on tax cuts for wealthier Australians. We should be looking to cut the top rate, he said. Frankly, lower-income earners often don't pay a whole lot of tax in this country. Well, they would be paying more tax if those opposite had won the election, and doesn't that just say everything, Mr Speaker? We are the party of lower income taxes and higher wages and less debt. They are the party of lower wages and higher taxes and bigger deficits. We are the party of responsible economic management, and they are a shambles, Mr Speaker. Now, whether it's our tax cuts and their approach to them, whether it's the historic reforms to the EPBC Act that the Prime Minister and Minister Watt and Minister Gallagher secured today, 2 things are really clear. We finished this year focused, united and delivering. They finished the year divided, divisive and in disarray.
Call to the member for Parkes.
Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. Will the minister who works part-time apologise to Australian families and businesses for the government's broken promise to cut electricity bills by $275 by the end of 2025, a promise that was made almost 100 times?
Give a call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the honourable member for his question. He's from New South Wales, and the wholesale price of electricity in New South Wales in May 2022 was $320 a megawatt hour.
Members on my left.
For this quarter, it is $90 a megawatt hour. The retail increase that was hidden by then-Minister Taylor in New South Wales was $227 or 14% for households and $1,130 for small businesses. I wonder whether the member for Hume cares to apologise for hiding that increase before the last election, for deliberately for deliberately hiding it from the Australian people. I could print out the instrument he signed to change the law to hide the increase and distribute it to the caucus. I'd need a lot of paper, not 40 but 94, but I could do it, Mr Speaker. We could all hold it up, the instrument that the member for Hume signed to hide the increase in power prices before the 2022 election. 7 coal-fired power stations in New South Wales, totalling 11.3 gigawatts, announced their closures under the former government, including Liddell, Mount Piper, Araring, Bayswater and Vales Point B. And you know how many gigawatts Minister Taylor's UNGI scheme delivered for New South Wales? Member for Eden Minero's onto it. None, zero gigawatts delivered under the UNGI scheme. By contrast, Mr Speaker, 5.7 gigawatts of renewables, 1 gigawatt of large-scale storage and 1 gigawatt of firming gas has been added in New South Wales since May 2022. A further 5.4 gigawatts of renewables and 1.2 gigawatts of storage in New South Wales have been selected under our capacity investment scheme. That's delivery. That's what delivery looks like for the people of New South Wales.
No, the member for Parkes, the minister was being directly relevant. You couldn't be more directly relevant reading facts and figures about the price of energy when he was asked about the price of energy. Order. Order. I've been crystal clear about points of relevance and taking points of order on relevance. If he was talking about something else, he wouldn't be directly relevant, but of course he was. Give the call to the member for Cunningham.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Housing, Homelessness and Cities. What is the Albanese Labor government doing to build more houses for Australians? Are there any risks to the delivery of these homes?
Give the call to the Minister for Housing, the Minister for Homelessness and the Minister for Cities.
Thanks, Speaker, and I thank the member for Cunningham for her question. We are so lucky to have her powerful voice representing regional Australia in our caucus, as are so many regional MPs behind me representing the Labor Party, Speaker. Now, Mr Speaker, we're in the middle of a housing crisis that's been cooking for 40 years, and the answer is we've got to build, build, build. But to build, we first need to approve. And for so many housing projects that we see around the country, it takes much longer to get approval to build a home than it does to actually build one. And this is one of the things that our government is working to change. So this is a really important day today, Speaker, as we take a big step forward in reforming Australia's broken environmental laws. Speaker, Australia's new environmental laws will reduce approval times for housing, in some cases from years down to weeks. A faster yes and a faster no to give home builders the certainty that they need. Now, those opposite continue their yapping as usual about the views of industry, but I want to let them know that the Property Council have come out fiercely supporting these changes today. They said these new laws give businesses greater certainty, support better environmental outcomes and speed up housing supply. Now, Speaker, housing remains a really, really important challenge for our country, but there are some great green shoots of progress that we're starting to see. Speaker, you know our government's delivering 55,000 much-needed social and affordable homes. We've got building approvals in Australia today up 15% on where they were a year ago. We've got 1 million households around the country benefiting from our 50%, almost 50% increase in Commonwealth rent assistance, and we've now seen 59,000 construction places taken up as part of Fee Free TAFE. Now, Speaker, I was asked about risks to delivery, and there are many, not as many as there were earlier today, Speaker, but they sit opposite me. Those opposite had a prime opportunity to use the power that they have in this parliament to help us fix Australia's environmental laws. But what did they do instead, Speaker? They decided to be completely irrelevant and focus on their favourite activity, which is undermining each other at every single turn. Now, Speaker, we have got an opposition so divided they are organising separate clashing drinks events for different leadership contenders. My support sits with the member for Lindsay, Speaker.
Yeah. I just asked. Members on my right, the member for Reid is now warned. Well, we can just hear from the Manager of Opposition Business.
Yeah, just on relevant, Speaker, the Minister was asked about housing, and she's not addressing housing at the moment. New South Wales built less houses this year than last year, so maybe she could get back to the topic.
Minister, yep, the Minister was asked, are there any risks to the delivery of these homes? So just want to make sure, I'm working with you, just want to make sure for that part of the question she's making her answer directly relevant, and she'll need to talk about the risks, not just opposition policy. She'll need to answer the question that she was asked about.
Thank you, Speaker, and I think it shows very clearly part of the problem, that those opposite can't see the massive division that they bring to this parliament every day and the risk that that poses to good government across our country. Right. Now, Speaker, we have seen something extraordinary happen today, which is even the member for New England calling it quits. And when Barnaby thinks there's too much drama, Speaker,
Order.
you know the wheels are really falling off.
Order.
Speaker,
the Minister
we're
will
focused on delivering.
And the Minister will also refer to all members by their correct titles. Order. I'll give the call to the member for Wannon.
Thanks, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change. This week the Minister said he was, and I quote, focused like a laser on energy prices. Minister, when will Australians see a $275 reduction in their retail power bills?
Give the call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I thank the honourable member for his question. And we agree, energy bills are too high. That's why we're working so hard to get them lower. That's the whole point, Mr Speaker. That's what this government understands. This government understands, and we're doing that by introducing more supply into the system, reversing the situation where 4 gigawatts of dispatchable power left the grid and only 1 gigawatt came on, reversing that, making sure more energy is connected to the system, providing short-term bill relief in the meantime, something we've done 3 times, the honourable member opposed 3 times. So it takes some gall, Mr Speaker, to oppose energy bill relief and then come in here and demand that energy bills should be lower. We recognise that energy bills are too high.
Order.
We recognise there's more work to do to see that 30%, roughly 30% reduction in wholesale prices in the last quarter flow through to bills. Australians aren't seeing that yet in their bills. We want to see them receive that as soon as possible. That's why we're reforming the default market offer. That's why we're introducing Solar Sharer, so that as many Australians as possible get access to 3 hours free electricity in the middle of the day. I mean, you've got to be pretty negative to oppose free electricity in the middle of the day, but they find a way. They're actually opposed to Australians having the right to free electricity. I mean, that's how negative those opposite have become. I mean, I know how hard it is in opposition. We get it. We know it's tough, but at least find something you can support. If you can't support free electricity, what can you support?
The Minister's concluded his answer. Give the call to the member for Hasluck.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations. How has the Albanese Labor government delivered for Australian workers this year? How does this compare to other approaches?
Call to the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations.
Well, thank you, Speaker, and I'd like to thank the hard-working member for Hasluck for her question. Since the Albanese Labor government was first elected, we have been working to deliver higher wages. Just a few months ago, we passed legislation to protect penalty and overtime rates, delivering on our election commitment. This means for all those workers relying on these rates over the Christmas period, they can be reassured that under this government, their penalty and overtime rates are protected. Now, this year our government advocated to the Fair Work Commission for a wage increase for our lowest paid workers, meaning that over the course of this Labor government, minimum wage earners are on average more than $9,000 better off. Now, our world-leading gig worker reforms are delivering platform delivery drivers in Australia minimum standards, including life-changing pay increases. And this year we've also seen our determination to reinvigorate enterprise bargaining paying off, we are now seeing the highest number of employees on record covered by enterprise agreements, and these agreements are delivering substantial pay increases. And of course, our government has delivered early educators and aged carers a well-deserved pay rise, finally recognising the important work that they do. Now, this year we've also extended the right to disconnect to all workers covered by the Fair Work Act, so more people can turn off their phone and spend important time with their loved ones, particularly over the Christmas break. While our government is getting on with delivering our commitment to get wages moving, I will compare that to those opposite. Now, before the last election, we did have a coalition plan, you may have missed it, and that was to force working women into part-time job-sharing arrangements, cutting their take-home pay. They also promised to rip away the right to disconnect, wanting people in this country to work longer for less. And of course, they promised to repeal back important reforms that are delivering better wages for Australian workers. Now, despite the Coalition's plan being thoroughly rejected by the Australian people, we now have the Leader of the Opposition reheating last year's Christmas leftovers. When asked whether she would roll back our measures that are delivering better wages and conditions, she said she would look at it all. Everything is on the table when it comes to those opposite. Now, while those on the other side continue to fight and squabble for just one job, this Labor government is fighting for well-paid jobs for every single Australian.
Call to the honourable member for Kooyong.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Home Affairs. In the last 3 months, the government has signed a secret MOU to pay Nauru at least $2.5 billion to house an undisclosed number of asylum seekers. Allegations of corruption have been made against multiple members of the Nauruan government, and it's been reported that Australian bikie gangs have won contracts to manage security on Nauru. Minister, is it your position that the opacity, wastefulness and cruelty of these arrangements reflects well on this country?
Call to the Minister for Home Affairs and the Leader of the House.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. I want to deal really specifically with the final part of the question and very directly about why the arrangements we have with Nauru are important and really important for Australia to have. The issues that you raised with respect to some of those contracts, when I last met with the President of Nauru, David Adiang, who I've dealt with since 2013 when I was previously Immigration Minister, the various allegations were taken seriously by him, and I trust that the Government of Nauru is dealing with that. But why these arrangements are in place is for a very good reason. And let me go back first of all to 2013 when I was previously Minister for Immigration. At that point, through what we did with our arrangements with Papua New Guinea and Nauru, we took the number of people who were risking their lives at sea by boat in just 3 months to be cut by 90%. That's right. That would not have been possible without those arrangements. When I first came into that portfolio, the boats were at the highest rate they had ever been, and there was a real human cost in that. I had 33 people die on my watch, drown at sea. The youngest of them was a baby. His name was Abdul Jafari. Today he should be 12. He should be 12 today, but he's not. And to make sure that we have a pathway to stop that trade in misery is an important and decent thing for Australia to do. In the same way, the more recent arrangements, which were referred to in the question as being about asylum seekers, there was no mention in the question about the fact that the particular people we're talking about there are people who have committed serious crimes in Australia. And it's a bit of a big detail to leave out, because these are individuals who have had their visas cancelled for a reason. And Australia has to be a country where visa cancellation is meaningful. When we had the High Court decision on NZYQ, we had a situation where all of a sudden it meant for some people, if your visa was cancelled, you'd have to return to your country of origin or go somewhere else. But for others, visa cancellation would in fact be meaningless for them. They would live in the community in the exact same way. And that's not the way to run a serious immigration system. As a nation, It is right and proper that any country is able to have control of its visa system. And almost everybody who is in Australia on a visa is a good guest in this country, respects this country and is welcome here. But when people, and there are some extraordinary levels of crime for people in that particular caseload, when they have their visas cancelled, it has to have meaning. If we can't return them to their country of origin, then I am grateful that the government of Nauru has given us a pathway for the third country resettlement arrangements which were put through this parliament.
Yeah. Call to the member for Hunter.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Aged Care and Seniors. What has the Albanese Labor government done to repair and rebuild our aged care workforce? Why was this necessary?
Give a call to the Minister for Aged Care and the Minister for Seniors.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the member for Hunter for his question, and I thank him for the work that he's doing improving the health of men all across our country, including through his most recent and certainly most successful hair removal experience. Speaker, when we came to government, we inherited an aged care sector crippled by a decade of neglect, a workforce stretched to breaking point, wages that failed to reflect the skill and professionalism of the job, and a system held together only by the dedication and sheer hard work of its workforce. And, Speaker, let me say this clearly. Aged care workers are the backbone of our system. They are skilled, compassionate professionals who show up every day for our loved ones. They deserve a government that shows up for them, and that's exactly what this Albanese Labor government is doing. While those opposite spent years fighting among themselves, dividing, delaying and denying the Royal Commission's most urgent calls, we got on with the job of rebuilding the workforce that older Australians rely upon. We've delivered the biggest pay rise in the history of aged care. So far, 4 rounds of fully funded pay rises recognising aged care work as the professional, essential work that it is. Today, the average registered nurse is making $28,000 more than they did before, meaning the award has increased by about $550 a week. These are life-changing numbers. There is no better cost of living help than a pay rise. Valuing workers isn't just good policy, it's how you deliver better care. Speaker, we've also made 24/7 nursing in aged care homes a reality. Getting nurses back into nursing homes is now a legislated requirement met by nearly every facility in the country. We've introduced mandatory care minutes and strengthened regulations so every older person receives the safe, person-centred attention and care that they're entitled to. This is about lifting standards and lifting the status of the workforce. And we've invested in a pipeline of workers for the future, funding thousands of free TAFE places, retention payments and scholarships, alongside better migration settings for targeted roles. Mr Speaker, workforce shortages don't vanish overnight, but the difference is this. We have a plan, and we're delivering it side by side with the incredible aged care workers who make this system run, not at their expense. And after a decade of division and drift, we're delivering renewal. While those opposite look for the next fight, this Labor government will keep valuing workers, lifting standards and building a system that gives every older Australian the dignity and the respect that they deserve.
The call to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. In his self-described year of delivery, and after 3.5 years of Labor, the Prime Minister has delivered the largest decline in living standards in the developed world, lower productivity, more debt, higher inflation, and now, as many economists warn, the real prospect of higher interest rates. Prime Minister, on this final sitting day of 2025, will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility for all these failures?
Give a call to the Prime Minister.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. We have, of course, reduced debt, reduced the interest that would have been paid on debt, because we turned their budget deficits into a budget surplus in our first year. we turned their budget deficit into a surplus in our second year and produced a reduced deficit in our third year. Our economy is growing very unusually across the developed world. We have had 0 quarters of negative growth. Inflation is down to half of what it was under those opposite. Interest rates have come down 3 times this year. Wages have increased 8 quarters in a row. They're growing at the fastest pace since 2012, the last time Labor was in government. We had the lowest average unemployment rate of any government in 50 years. 1.2 million additional jobs, 3 out of 5 full-time and 4 out of 5 in the private sector. We have the smallest gender pay gap on record. We have fewer days lost to industrial disputes compared with those opposites. We have a record number of small businesses. We have solid business investment, and we've delivered a tax cut for every taxpayer, which, combined with the wages growth, means that people are earning more and keeping more of what they earn. Those opposite want people to work longer for less. If they had their way, wages would be going down. People would not be able to work from home. Tax cuts would not have been delivered. That was their platform that they went to the election on, and they managed to combine all of that with higher deficits. Higher deficits is what they proposed. We've rolled out cost of living relief for every single household in energy bill relief, cheaper childcare for 1.1 million families, cheaper medicines that have saved Australians more than $1.5 billion, free TAFE for 725,000 enrolments, the largest increase in rent assistance in 30 years, student debt relief for more than 3 million Australians, all of it opposed by those opposite. All of it opposed by a coalition that's just too busy fighting each other to fight for Australians.
Give the call to the member for Dixon.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Communications. What threats does Australia's social media minimum age law face, and how is the Albanese Labor government fighting to put parents and kids before platforms?
Call to the Minister for Communications and the Minister for Sport.
I thank the member for Dixon for her question and for her ceaseless commitment to fighting for Northside parents and Northside children. Mr Speaker, exactly 1 year ago today, Parliament responded to a call from more than 120,000 Australian parents fed up with the predatory grip of social media that it had on their children. Parliamentarians of all stripes, Mr Speaker, put politics to the side and came together to prioritise the safety and the well-being of our kids. In doing so, we sent a strong message to Australian families. We hear you and we've got your back. And we've sent a stronger message to the social media companies. Time's up. Over the past 12 months, the Albanese Labor government has been focused on delivery, tabling the rules, publishing the regulatory guidance, working with platforms to ensure compliance and delivering a national awareness campaign to help prepare parents, carers, teachers and students. Doing our job, delivering. And we stand ready to defend any legal challenges that come our way on behalf of the 120,000 Australian parents who asked us to pass this law and to protect their kids from the harms of social media. But, Mr Speaker, while Labor delivers, the threats to these laws have come from parliamentarians who voted for these laws to happen. Mr Speaker, for the past 6 months, the Shadow Minister for Communications and her far-right co-conspirators have done everything they can to erode trust in the law they passed. Yesterday, coalition senators were doing the dirty work of the social media platforms, co-signing a bill to repeal the bill and throw Australian kids to the sharks. They are dog-whistling about needing a digital ID to access social media, despite the fact the Senate passed a coalition amendment which prohibits platforms from requiring ID, and with any company caught forcing users to hand over their ID facing fines of up to $10 million. And in a cosmic sign of events to come, Mr Speaker, yesterday the Shadow Minister for Communications threw her previous coalition leader under the bus, saying that in hindsight she probably would not have supported the law. What? There's a predictive text field to their chaos, Mr Speaker, but we will not accept that chaos misleads young Australians. If the current leader of the opposition supports protecting children from the harms of social media, then stand up, join the government in backing Australian parents and making sure this law is a success. Anything short of that, Mr Speaker, is a complete capitulation to big tech and to even bigger political threats.
Order. Member for Barker, I reminded the House yesterday about those comments. They are disrespectful. Give the call to the member for Mackellar.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Resources. Minister, more than 80% of Australia's gas is used for exports, tripling domestic gas prices and doubling electricity prices. In 2011, Santos's Gladstone LNG joint venture signed export contracts despite not having sufficient gas reserves, forcing gas to be diverted from the domestic market. Can the minister confirm that this egregious export contract will not be extended beyond 2031 when it expires, as recommended by the ACCC?
Call to the Minister for Resources and the Minister for Northern Australia.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. And I thank the member for Mackellar for her question. I refer to the contents of that question. As you would be aware, as a member would be aware, the government is undertaking review of the gas market, and the intent of this review is to carefully examine how our gas policies work for our economy as part of the all-important energy transition, which I know the member supports, unlike those opposite. The review is examining the effectiveness and coherence of existing regulatory mechanisms to identify improvements with the aim of creating a long-term, stable regulatory environment. The Minister for Climate Change and Energy and I have been working closely on this for some time. It is nearing its conclusion, and we will speak more about that in due course. It is helpful to answer your question to go through the guiding principles around the review. To secure supply of gas for Australians is a very important objective, to support the transition to net zero, and of course that Australia will remain a reliable trading partner, supporting energy security in countries like Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, but of course the Republic of Korea as well. In relation to KOGAS and Gladstone LNG, I would note that KOGAS is a co-owner of GLNG and indeed has invested $1 billion into the Queensland economy to build that facility. The arrangements you speak about expire in 2031, and all I can say about those arrangements is that whatever arrangements occur at that time will have to meet the obligations and requirements under Australian law.
Give the call to the member for Ford.
My question is to the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government. What is the Albanese Labor government doing to deliver the infrastructure Australians need? What other approaches to infrastructure are there?
Call to the Minister for Infrastructure, the Minister for Transport, Regional Development and Local Government.
Thank you very much. And can I thank the member for Ford for his question? I always love visiting your part of the world. Queensland's beautiful beaches are ready-made, but we do know there's work to do on the roads and rail across the state, and our government is delivering. For decades, it's been clear to anyone who sat in the traffic jam next to Movie World that a north-south alternative to the M1 is required. Over 210,000 vehicles routinely use the M1 on the busiest days between Coomera and Nerang. Now, I'm pleased to share that the fix is here. The Coomera connector is coming. The new 4-lane, 4-kilometre section of the Coomera Connector, which will be inventively named the M9, will provide a vital alternative route to the M1 for locals between Coomera and Helensvale. I look forward to opening this much-needed project with my good friend Minister Brent Mickelberg and the member for Ford next week. I'm proud to be working with Brent on our $7.2 billion investment in the Bruce Highway, with construction already getting underway. The Beef Roads, where work has finally started. We finally got that project off the ground, upgrading key cattle freight routes across central Queensland. Construction on the Rockhampton Ring Road, where we had to put millions of dollars more in to deliver because it was shortchanged by those opposite. Only Labor delivering the Rockhampton Ring Road and the Mackay Ring Road, two massive projects being delivered by a federal Labor government in partnership with the Queensland government. And planning is underway for rail improvements between Logan and the Gold Coast and better rail links to the Sunshine Coast, where work is already underway, upgrading the rail between Berribum and Nambill. Now, Minister Mickelberg and I also worked with the Brisbane City Council to deliver Brisbane Metro, and all three levels of government are now collaborating on the business case to see it expanded even further. It's a new way of doing business between federal and state governments. We actually work together. I know that is a foreign concept to those opposite. We work with our state colleagues. When they were in government, they didn't just fight with each other, they also antagonised the states. They called West Australians cavemen. They talked down premiers who disagreed with them. They cut funding to projects, key projects like Brisbane's Cross River Rail. Really, it's been only a Labor government that's really invested significantly in Queensland. We know Cross River Rail's undergoing and being going well. Again, this Prime Minister had invested in it as Infrastructure Minister. They froze indexation to road maintenance, leaving potholes all across our national highway network. Decades worth of potholes that we're now having to clean up. This government is building the infrastructure that Australia needs, fixing up on the mess left by that divided opposition opposite.
Call to the member for Riverina.
Just an extension of time for the Minister so she can talk about more about coalition-funded.
Resume your seat. Resume your seat. Order. Nice try, member for Riverina. Order. When the House comes to order, give the call to the honourable member for Hinkler.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. How many meetings of the National Security Committee of Cabinet, which deals with important energy security issues, does the Minister, who works part-time, expect to miss while he is overseas at his full-time job as President of COP negotiations?
Order. Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'll take the question as the Chair of the National Security Committee.
Order.
It's actually a breach of the law to talk about what happens at the National Security Committee.
Order. Order. Members on my left. Yep. Order. The Minister for Climate Change. The member for Hume. When the House comes to order. I know it's the last day, but we're going to get through this. So I'd like to hear from the member for Boothby.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Leader of the House. As the parliamentary year draws to a close and we move towards the Christmas season, what are the different approaches to delivery that have been taken so far in the 48th Parliament?
Call to the Leader of the House.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Boothby for the question, because the approach to delivery could not be more stark. We have in this 48th Parliament since the election, because we have an Albanese Labor government cutting 20% of student debt, because we have an Albanese Labor government having cheaper medicines, because we have an Albanese Labor government protecting penalty rates for Australian workers, because we have an Albanese Labor government 5% deposits for first home buyers. And add to that today, because we have an Albanese Labor government, long-awaited environmental reforms, and, I might say, Australian content obligations for streamers. But that approach to delivery, which is you see in the work of the parliament, for other members of parliament, the approach to delivery would be better represented at Christmas time by the movies that people watch at the end of the year. Because the great Christmas story, the Christmas Carol, I suggest they all watch a version of it, probably the Muppet version of the Christmas Carol, and in doing so, don't focus on the tragedy of Tiny Tim.
Order. We're just, members on my right, order. The ministers on my right, just allow the Speaker to deal with this matter. The Leader of the House can resume his seat. There's only one point of order that you could be raising on, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. The member for Wannon.
It's on relevance. This is about delivery. Now, you could talk about delivery.
Order. Order. Members on my right. It was a very broad question, Member for Wannon, and you're not to abuse standing orders like that. I'm feeling generous because it's Christmas time. Order. Order.
Thanks
when
very
the House
much,
comes
Mr.
to order,
Speaker.
the Leader of the House will continue.
Christmas Carol, they should watch out for the ghosts of Christmas past, because we had two of them today. The ghosts of Christmas past, where their former Prime Minister, referring to Liberals today as insane conversations about energy, where he said energy policy should be determined by engineering and economics, not ideology and idiocy. But the other ghost of Christmas past, the member for New England, who was the deputy to Malcolm Turnbull, has decided to declare today that he will refuse to join any political party that will have him as a leader.
Order. Just the Leader of the House. We've got a minute to go, but I just ask you to... The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, following on from your frequent rulings, my point of order goes to the order of the House. This garbage is out of order.
Order. Order. This places the Speaker in a difficult position because the question was so broad, but I'm just going to ask the Leader of the House to conclude as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. Because it won't be long before they do move on from that movie, and with Love Actually we'll have the member for New England turning up at a Queensland doorstep for a different party, holding a sign saying, "To me, you are perfect." But the Leader of the Opposition, while those opposite are watching whatever they're watching, the Leader of the Opposition can spend that time watching Home Alone.
Has the Leader completed his answer? Order. Order. When the House comes to order, we'll hear from the member for Curtin.
My question's for the Prime Minister. The average house price has gone from 4 to 9 times the average income in the last 25 years, locking younger Australians out of a home. If this government is trying to address the housing affordability crisis, are your policies aiming to increase, plateau or reduce house prices?
Call to the Prime Minister.
What we're doing, the member for Curtin, is increasing supply. So what we want to do is to provide
on my left,
more social and public housing, point number one. And that's what we're doing through our Housing Australia Future Fund. That's what we're doing through Housing Australia. We're, in addition to that, trying to provide more private rentals, and we're doing that through our Build to Rent incentive as well. Something that was blocked in the Senate by the Coalition, stopping that occur when the Coalition and the Greens combined to be the Coalition.
We've dealt with this matter before. The Prime Minister was referring to the no-alition as in a collective group rather than the coalition. If he had referred to the coalition as the no-alition, as I have done before to rule it out, it's just going to assist the House if that term's not used. Yes, the Manager of Opposition. Oh, all right. I said it would assist the House if it could not be used. Order. Just the Manager of Opposition business. Just everybody. When the House comes to order, the Prime Minister will be heard in silence.
Mr. Speaker, they've had a bad day. They've had a bad day. I understand that. I tell you what would also assist houses, not just this House, is this government's policies being implemented. Because that's what we're doing, whether it be increased social housing, whether it be increased private rentals, or whether it be increased home ownership through programs, such as our shared equity scheme and our 5% deposits.
The member for Curtin, I'm going to deal the same way with the member for Parkes. The Prime Minister's completed his answer, but it was being directly relevant. When you ask a broad question like that, yeah, and he's addressing the topic of the question. Order. 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 When the House comes to order, we will hear from the honourable member for Newcastle.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Defence Industry and the Minister for Pacific Island Affairs. How is the united Albanese Labor government delivering critical defence capabilities to keep Australians safe, and how does it compare with other approaches to national security?
Call to the Minister for Defence Industry and the Minister for Pacific Island Affairs.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the member for Newcastle for her question. The Albanese government is united and working hard to deliver the capabilities our Defence Force needs to keep Australians safe. Yeah. And importantly, we're accelerating delivery at the same time as growing Aussie jobs. This is in stark contrast to the Liberals and Nationals, who aren't listening, have no ideas and are focused on themselves. We've delivered naval strike missiles, Tomahawk and SM-6 missiles, to the Navy years ahead of schedule, increasing the Navy's range tenfold. We're more than doubling the Navy's warship fleet, and we've selected the Megami-class frigates months ahead of schedule, with the first frigate to be delivered in 2029. And, Speaker, our first frigate will be delivered 5 years ahead of the Coalition's planned first new warship, and will deliver 4 new warships when they plan to deliver 1. Speaker, we've committed to continuous naval shipbuilding in Adelaide and Perth, delivering tens of thousands of new jobs. In contrast, the Liberals closed 2 shipyards, slashing thousands of jobs, and secretly cut $20 billion from the defence budget. We're increasing the budget by $70 billion. That is what a responsible, united government does. Now, Speaker, I'm asked about alternate approaches, and we saw it under display by the last government and continued in the opposition leader's thought bubble of a defence speech last week. A thought bubble so empty that the Shadow Defence Minister didn't even know about it. It was a speech that lauded Scott Morrison's commitment to producing guided weapons in this country. There was only one slight problem. Under the Morrison government, they produced 0 missiles. 0 missiles. The only thing they produced was media releases. I've got news for the opposition. You don't defend the nation with media releases or Top Gun music. In contrast, we're building 2 missile factories and we'll be producing missiles by the end of this year. That is what a united government does. The other insight of the opposition leader was that we need to invest in drones and autonomous systems, and I couldn't agree more. And that's why we've allocated over $10 billion to do that, and that's why we're repairing the damage her government did when they cancelled the country's only armed drone project. By contrast, we've built the Ghost Shark factory, growing hundreds of jobs in Sydney and delivering to the Navy. The truth is, Mr Speaker, we're getting on with the job of supporting the ADF, growing the defence industry workforce. Only one side of the parliament can be trusted with national security, and it's sitting right over here.
The call to the honourable member for Durack.
Here we are. Thank you. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
The Vinnie's WA CEO Anne Curran has delivered this damning assessment of life under Labor, and I quote, "The demand for our support services, particularly for emergency assistance, is greater than ever before. Not only are people struggling to pay their rent, but they don't have enough money left at the end of the week to buy essentials such as food." Can the minister, who works part-time, confirm that the government's failure to deliver its promised $275 power bill has ruined Christmas?
Give the call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I thank the honourable member for her question, and we would agree with the Chief Executive of Vinnie's that energy prices are too high, and that's why we're working hard to reduce them. That's why we're working so hard. That's why we're working hard to ensure more energy supply in Western Australia. 2 coal-fired power stations in Western Australia announced their closures under the former government, Muja A and Muja B. Minister Taylor's scheme, UNGI, delivered 0 gigawatts for Western Australia. In contrast, 1.5 gigawatts of renewables and 1.2 gigawatts of large-scale storage have been added in Western Australia since May 2022. A further half a gigawatt of storage in Western Australia has been delivered under the Capacity Investment Scheme. And I'm pleased to tell the House that 15,825 West Australian families have installed a cheaper home battery since the 1st of July, in many instances reducing their bills to 0 or getting a rebate instead of getting a bill, actually getting money in their bank account rather than sending a bill, getting a bill. Now, that is the difference that delivery makes. We have much, much more to do. We intend to keep going with that task to repair the 10 years of delay, denial and dysfunction of those opposite.
Give the call to the member for Macquarie.
Thank you, Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. How have the government's EPBC reforms been received?
Great question. Give the call to the Prime Minister.
I thank the member for Macquarie for her question, and of course she represents a beautiful part of Australia, the Blue Mountains, that is such an important part of our environment that links in the urban community of Sydney with the magnificent Blue Mountains area. And indeed, Graham Samuel, the person who was commissioned by the Liberal and National Party government, they chose to commission the report, they ignored it, but finally it's taken a government to put it in place. This is what he had to say today. The summation of my position now is one of relief and total elation, because at long last, after just over 5 years, the review recommendations are being implemented in total. What we've got now is progress. That is what Graham Samuel had to say. The Association of Mining Exploration Companies said this: AMEC has been working to support the best deal possible, and this is it. Went on to say the agreement finally unlocks progress on reforms industry has sought for as long as anyone can remember. The minerals industry will be a primary beneficiary of these changes. The Australian Industry Group, EPBC reforms strike the right balance between development and the environment. The reforms before Parliament to fix our primary environmental laws, while not perfect, provide much-needed clarity for essential development and necessary protection for our environment. The Property Council of Australia. This reform ends years of uncertainty and delivers the most significant overhaul of environmental laws in a generation. They give business greater certainty, supports better environmental outcomes and speeds up housing supply. The Housing Industry Association. These reforms will make a marked difference in turning the dial on fast-tracking new approvals and clearing the massive backlog of approvals awaiting the green light. Dr Ken Henry. The Australian Parliament has done its job and restored national leadership to environmental protection and repair. Urban Development Institute of Australia, the progress of the Environment Protection Reform Bill 2025 signals that critical and long-awaited reform is finally underway. Mr Speaker, we made it very clear we wanted to negotiate across the board. Unfortunately, the rabble opposite couldn't get their act together. But we have got this done.
Order. We're just dealing with the order of questions. Yeah. Yeah, we'll deal with this. We're just, due to an earlier question time last term, we had to rebalance the last couple of weeks. We just balanced the number of questions, in which I've done.
I'm just drawing attention to the House sessional order of the changed order that was done with respect to when we got to this number of questions with the crossbench.
Yeah, and we did rebalance that process, so I'll go to the crossbench now. Order. No, they have indicated, but we just had to do some work to work with the House, and we've done that now. Give the call to the honourable member for Wentworth.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Many constituents complain to me that question time is not answer time, and that is driven by the standing orders that don't actually force real answers from the government. That they say to me that it means that we don't hold the government to account in the same way that they expect us to in this House. I ask the Prime Minister, have you considered reforming question time to give a greater expectation of answers and a narrowing of relevance so we can get better answers in this House?
Give the call to the Prime Minister.
Question to you, but I'll see if the Leader of the House, that was a job I used to have, might want to add to the answer.
Members on my
but
left.
One of the things that has improved, I think, the reforms that have been placed in the Parliament while I was Leader of the House is a limit on time. That wasn't always the case. Limit on time in asking the question and a time in answering the question as well. One of the things you might notice as a member for Wentworth is I draw your attention to the time on the clock. One of the things that I have done is not shut down question time after an hour, and indeed, and indeed, and indeed, if those opposite want me to shut it down in an hour, I'll take that on board. But what I have done is make, on average, questions every single day. I'm here every single day. All my ministers are here, and we are actually the most accountable parliament. We are the most accountable parliament in the world. In the world, most parliaments on the G20. If I speak about President Paboa has not answered a question. Prime Minister Modi has not answered a question. In the United Kingdom, the Westminster system upon which we're based, there's Prime Minister's question time for 1 hour once a week, and the questions are on notice. On notice.
Order. Members on my left, just come to order.
On notice. There is no parliament in the world in which a government is more accountable than this government, and Australian governments of both persuasions. That is just a fact across the board. And one of the things that we do is to make sure as well that we've ensured that standing orders have been amended so that the crossbenchers get a fair crack. That's something that we have done, and this question is an example of that.
Give the call. No, it goes back to the government. Order. Order. Members on my left. We'll hear from the honourable member for Melbourne.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. How is the Albanese Labor government delivering for Australians, and what are the alternatives to our government's action?
Give the call to the Prime Minister.
I thank the member for Melbourne for her question. It's been a delight to visit the member for Melbourne's electorate, including to go on the first journey of the Melbourne Metro that will make such a difference to the entire system of Melbourne, because what it will do is open up the capacity of the entire network. and it opens on Sunday, and I know that there'll be a huge celebration there. That was something that we in government put $3 billion into that was ripped out by the former government. But what winning successive elections enables you to do is to deliver on the commitments that you put to the Australian people. And since May 3, we have been focusing on delivery. A stronger Medicare, higher wages, more secure jobs, making sure that people earn more and keep more of what they earn. We have been going through one by one and ticking off the legislative commitments that we have made to deliver for the Australian people. 3 million Australians having their student debt cut by 20%. 16,000 first home buyers into their own home using a 5% deposit. Another 21,000 social and affordable homes on the way through the HAF. Tax cuts for every taxpayer next year and the year after. More than 130,000 Australians benefiting from batteries to make sure that the solar power from their roofs gets stored and their bills are decreased. Higher wages, free TAFE, paid prac and incentives for construction apprentices. 50 more urgent care clinics. One in my electorate will open next month. At last, I thank the Minister for the final recognition of the electorate of Grayndler. More bulk billing GPs. And when we meet next year in February, the 1-800 Medicare will be up and running, and every Australian will have access to cheaper medicines that come in January. That is delivery in action, making a positive difference to people's lives. We define ourselves by what we are for. Those opposite define themselves by what they are against, usually each other. But even when they combine and make a decision, it's what they're against. They're against net zero, they're against our environmental reforms, they're against all these measures, they're against tax cuts, but they can't say what they are in favour of. When they're fighting each other, they're fighting against what Australians deserve. And on that note, Mr Speaker, I ask that further questions be placed on the notice paper.